All right. Good morning. Assuming you're in UK, of course. If you're elsewhere, it might be good evening. It might be middle of the night. You might be asleep while you're listening to this. So this week has been kind of interesting. I have really kind of come to grips with sort of ideas on different strategies to both accelerate, I guess, your audience growth and also obviously to accelerate sales, whether that is sales of a course, a program, or just coaching. And I've had some thoughts on that as well in terms of different business models and certainly where I think I'm headed with this. So this week I was reading Justin Brook, who runs AdSkills. I was reading he put out a post where he was talking about revamping his whole business model. And it was really interesting because I'd been thinking along similar lines. So it was interesting to kind of be validated, if you like, by someone who's actually doing it. So he's really sort of taken the content that he's created over the last few years, so all the courses he's created, which he's been selling independently, and turned it into a simple, like $9-10 a month type thing to access the content. So rather than spending potentially, several $1,000s on the content, you can access the content very, very inexpensively, incredibly cheaply. But then beyond that, in terms of what do people really want, and this is what I'm seeing as a shift as well. Like what people really want is the community and the support. In other words, the coaching aspect has become way more important as the marketplace, certainly within the arena of people marketing themselves online or making sales online, obviously the business of that aspect of it. What I'm seeing, and what I've been watching for the last, certainly since the pandemic started, is the need for coaching, like the importance of coaching. Like the marketplace has matured so much. Like, go back 10, 15 years, then literally every internet marketing event that I got invited to speak at, every single speaker was promoting a course of some sort. So they would do courses, or they might do, like the odd one, start to do seminars so people would come and sit in on an event. But mostly it was, if you like, information driven. So people were buying the information. Now, of course, we're drowning in information. It's like, it's not difficult to Google and find pretty much anything you want to know about any aspect of anything. Like if you went on YouTube and typed in Facebook ads, there's probably 1,000,001 YouTube channels dedicated to talking about the technicalities of running Facebook ads. Doesn't make you necessarily a brilliant advertiser, doesn't necessarily share with you different types of strategies on advertising, but certainly there's plenty of content, plenty of information to kind of bring you up to date on, okay, this is how you place an ad. This is the kind of things you want to think about, conversion outcomes and all this sort of stuff. So all that's there. If you want to write better content, there's plenty of stuff on that. You want to be more comfortable on camera, there's plenty of stuff on that. So there's not a lack of information anywhere. In fact, I would say we're probably drowning in it. What people want, of course, though, is implementation. Information by itself, not enough, ever. Why? Because we're not, and I've said this before, we're not Vulcans, we're not Dr. Spocks. We are human, so therefore we're driven by our emotions. So that emotional aspect gets in the way. Like I was seeing this morning, I was on LinkedIn and I was just posting about this live. And I'm actually, just to kind of give you a heads up, I'm going to give you a strategy for growing your audience based on a couple of things, but I'll use the post I saw this morning to kind of illustrate this. Two posts I saw. One, somebody had run a poll. Obviously, LinkedIn is one poll after another at the moment. But somebody had run a poll saying, if you had an extra $1,000 to spend on marketing, how would you spend it? And the options were paid advertising, content, organic content, SEO, this sort of stuff. I would say, I don't know, let's say there was 20 responses. Out of the 20 responses, one of them said they'd use paid ads. One out of 20, which is really interesting because what that's telling me is that people are afraid to spend money. So there was all sorts of rationale behind it in the sense of, you put out, their perception was, this was the other aspect of it, people's perception was paid ads doesn't relate to valuable content, whereas organic is you're putting out valuable content. Whereas, of course, it's so in their head, paid ads wasn't valuable content. And that was interesting to me because from my perspective, my whole thing is combine the two. Organic, as I've mentioned before, the value in organic is that most people don't perceive it as salesy. So if they come across something organically or they read a post, they read a piece of content, they think it's a great piece of content, they're not immediately thinking, oh my God, this person's trying to sell me something. With paid ads, of course, the massive advantage of paid ads is I can put that content in front of thousands of people within the next day or so, quite easily. And obviously, as you scale that, you could be looking at tens of thousands of people a day. So that's what I think people miss, is that aspect of you can combine the two. So that was interesting. Like, people wouldn't spend their money on that. They would spend it on, obviously, somehow creating more great content, which from my point of view, great content's great, but it's not great if nobody sees it, because that doesn't help your business at all. And the second thing I saw was somebody talking about dealing with the voice of doubt, that little voice in your head that gets in the way, that tells you that things aren't going to work out. We've all had it. I've had that massively in the past. And it's certainly with me, I've noticed that when I was on my own more, so kind of stuck at home in an office with nobody to discuss things with, like feeling a little bit isolated, then that voice had a habit of getting stronger and louder, and I had to learn to put that to one side. And I've certainly developed that skill. So getting out of the way of yourself as a human. So there's two things there. One is the fear of making a mistake. So the fear of spending money on advertising and getting nothing in return. You've wasted a lot of money. That's what that post screamed to me. People going, oh no, I'm just going to put out organic content and attract people organically. Okay, well, good luck with that, because every day that gets harder. That gets harder because there's another 1 million people or another 100,000 people coming online every day. Another 10,000 people every day in your niche, pretty much. I mean, I'm making these numbers up off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure they're fairly close to accurate. So you got more clutter, more people in your niche. How are you going to deal with that? You got to write better content. You got to write content that is sticky. We'll come to that in a moment. Has sticky messages in it. So great little book on that, which I was prompted to pick up and reread it this earlier at the beginning of this week. Mind mapped the whole book out. So I'll share some of the content from that. But first of all, it's like you got to compete. You got to be able to get your content in front of eyeballs. You got to grow your visibility. That's why I go on about that so much. You got to grow your visibility. Like, I got really brilliant, really good, although I pat myself on the back and say so myself arrogantly, quite sure, at being able to get on stage and pitch to a cold audience and make great sales. I got very good at that. But I wouldn't have been any good at it if somebody wasn't filling the room. So in other words, if nobody saw my presentation, how good is it? It's useless. So that visibility aspect is massively important. Coming up with an idea for a product, spending months creating that product, and then spend another couple of months wrapping your head around the technical aspects of putting that online and having it work exactly the way you want it and having it look exactly the way you want it. And then, whoa, a year's gone by. And what have you got? You got a course that looks nice online, but you haven't actually got any sales, and you've just wasted a year. So it doesn't help. You got to have that audience. So therefore, your primary focus online is growing the audience. And I've said this before, but if I was starting out again, first thing I'd do is grow the audience much more quickly. I mean, I've done obviously a lot of stuff with partnerships, which has really helped me. But at the moment, I'm looking at not being reliant on partners. Like, it's the same as being reliant on promoters in the real world, in the sense of them filling a room. I want to be just totally independent of all of that. So I'll share how I'm going to be doing that later in this live. So that's first. The second aspect, of course, when people talk about the naysayer in the head, the voice in your head, that's a human element. That's a human part of us getting in our own way. And you've got to be able to get beyond that, which is why. So all of that is kind of a long-winded way to say that's why coaching is becoming more and more important for people. Or call it coaching, call it mentoring, call it what you want. But it's that aspect of it. Now, I wrote a post, I don't know how long ago, a month, 2 months ago, maybe, where I talked about like what my true focus and desire is. Like, I'm in my element and I enjoy myself the most when I am coaching, when I'm making a difference. Like, I'm really good on my feet. So in the sense of, people throwing questions at me, being able to answer them, fantastic. I did this profile thing, these like DISC profiles and Myers-Briggs, those are kind of personality profiles. I did a different one. I think it was called Kolbe, if I remember correctly. I might not be spot on, but I think it was called Kolbe. And it was more of a behavioral profile as opposed to a personality profile. What was interesting about it was it told me, and I did this a decade ago, but what it told me was, if someone's got a big problem, you're the person they bring in to solve it. So in other words, I'm good at thinking strategically on my feet. I'm good at finding solutions to problems. So that's a strength. And therefore, as I've said before, you want to build a business around your strength that leverages your strengths. So tie these together. Like, I'm good at this. It's like, tie these things together. That's kind of what I play with. That's kind of what I look at. It's like, how do you connect the dots so that you can both anticipate where we're going, where the trends are going, and therefore ideally get in front of them so that you can maximize the opportunity. Because obviously opportunities are like windows. They close eventually. So what worked yesterday doesn't necessarily work today, because certainly tactically they don't. So where I'm heading with this is I ultimately want to get to a place where the course sales is a smaller aspect of the business, in the sense of I don't want to necessarily be creating, $2,000 courses or things like this. But because that's not what people need. The information is readily available. I can simplify the information quickly. What they need is the support and ongoing coaching. So it's kind of like I want to maybe change my model so that I get to a place where what I'm really offering is the support, is the ongoing coaching. Not necessarily in a one-to-one manner, but in a group model, where I then provide, if you like, opportunities live like this. Obviously, the technology is here. So opportunities live to then just answer people's questions and get them out their own way. Like, I started out with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. The psychology side has always fascinated me. Getting in our own way and why we do it has always fascinated me. Helping people break through those kind of mental blocks, those mental barriers, has always fascinated me. Obviously, one, because I needed to do the work on me first, because I was completely, I probably more messed up than anybody I've ever met, but I needed to get through my own blocks. And then, of course, once having gone through them, it's easier to spot the patterns in other people. I've said this before, one of the benefits of having had such a long speaking career and meeting so many people from so many parts of the world is you see patterns. You see patterns of behavior, you see patterns in the questions people ask, which all have the same underlying cause. So that's the mindset aspect. So I want to be able to help people with that. I want to be able to answer their questions strategically in terms of where they're at, where they want to get to, the best way to get there. I think there's a massive misunderstanding of what strategy is. I've seen posts where people have answered questions about strategy, but not really, like somebody saying, if somebody put a post out saying, what strategies don't work anymore, and most of the answers, like, for example, one of the answers was, Facebook ads. That's not a strategy. That's just a platform for advertising on. The strategy is how you use the ads. That's the difference. So I think people misunderstand what the word strategy means. So I want to be able to do all of that, which means changing the model. So that brings us back to Justin and AdSkills. He's basically done that. So he's making the content very easy to access. It's all related to advertising and running ads on different platforms. But then they run a certification program as well. So the certification and the community aspect, the support aspect, is then the higher paid option, which makes more sense. So I think it's fantastic in that regard. And that's kind of where I want to go as a business. I want to get to a place where I'm doing more and more of that. Along the way, of course, my other big thing is testing things, like coming up with ideas and testing them. I test them for my campaigns. I test them with clients' campaigns. Like, one of the things I've never done is run a challenge, but I've got a client at the moment wants to run a challenge. We're going to kick that off at the end of the month. So I'm going to be digging deep into that. Of course, what do? I go modeling first. So I go find people who've run successful challenges, get inside their head, understand the strategy, understand what they've done, look at it from different angles. Can I improve it? Can I change it? Is there something that worked for them in the past that wouldn't work today? So I need to adapt it. So I get to play with all of that. And of course, I then get to make it work for a client. And hands down, so far, I've never had a client that I haven't been able to help. From an advertising perspective and a strategy perspective, that's all fantastic. So I'm going to be doing more of that. Coming then to, I put this out as a post. Let me see if I can share this screen. Share screen, yep. Window, this one. Yeah, let's just share this. Share. There we go. Whoops. There we go. So on here, actually, let me just see. If I go back to here, if I do that, actually, hold on, share. Let me just, 1 second. I just want to share this in the right place. View, share, play. Play in a window, that's the one. There we go. Right, now if I reduce the size of that window, what are you seeing? Okay, yeah, that works. All right, so you can see this slide. So I put this out as a post this week, and it was really to kind of highlight it as a diagnostic tool. So, one of my focuses is that you build a business to support your lifestyle. So you don't want to neglect any aspect of your lifestyle. I talk about this heavily in my Crush It program, which is all about neglect nothing. It's like, make every aspect of your life as fantastic as you want it to be. So, very simply, you can break your life into any number of categories. I've seen obviously different coaches will break things down into maybe as few as 3 categories, as many as 15 categories, which I think is too much. But again, you just decide what's important to you in your life. What are the categories that are necessary in your life? So I put here fitness, finance, friends, family, fun, fulfillment. They tend to be the ones I spend most of my time focused on. Within finance, I'd break that down into obviously long-term investments and my businesses as well. So I could, I suppose, put that in a different category. However, the most important part is this. At the center, I put this as a circle. At the center is your mindset. How you think, the beliefs you operate by, whether you allow your brain, that little voice, to override what you do and influence your behavior. All of that is your mindset. Then, of course, second thing you're going to need, you have to have a vision. You got to know where you want to get to, because it's very difficult to make a decision if you don't know where the end result is. So if you said, okay, I want something, but it's too vague, like I want more money. Well, that's very vague. Here's a $5 note. You got more money. So it's kind of be clear what that is. If you go back to ancient wisdom, Proverbs, without a vision, the people perish. So you got to have a vision. You got to have a clear understanding of where you want to get to. That, I believe, influences all aspects of your life. So you want to create a life vision. You can, of course, then break that down and say, what's the vision for your business? And then within that, actually bringing that into reality requires a couple of things. One, it requires a strategy. So I've just touched on that. Do you have a strategy that answers the question, how do you close the gap between where you are and where you want to get to, which is where the vision is. The vision bit is where you want to get to. Then, of course, within that, you can make decisions. Do you do A, do you do B, do you do C? Well, it's like, well, which one gets you closer to your outcome, closer to your vision? That's what I mean by being able to make effective decisions. But if you're not clear where you want to get to, you can't make that decision. It's like, well, all roads lead to the same place if you don't know where you want to go. So you need to know the strategy and obviously translate that into some form of plan or map, project map, which is how I tend to do it. Then in terms of executing that strategy, you need the right habits. So in other words, on a day-to-day basis, what do you do? And that needs to be habitual, because the only way you have consistency is through habits. Like there's this idea of freedom through discipline. The only way you get to the place where you're disciplined is to make it habitual. So like it's habitual for me to work out 4 or 5 times a week. It's habitual for me to have, like I eat in a window of 18-6. So 18 hours fasting, 6-hour window to eat. That's become a habit. And my body's adjusted accordingly. And obviously I get benefits from that, both in terms of managing the number of calories I put in my body, and also within that, then, of course, understanding what kind of calories I want to put in my body. Like I don't want to live on chocolate, for example. So habits are the things that take discipline and make it consistent. So you don't have to think about it. Like thinking about things every single day. Like if you came up to a door and you had to analyze and think about how that door opened for every single door that you ever approached in a day, in a week, in a month, that's exhausting, mentally draining. That's why willpower doesn't last very long. It's a short burst and that's it. So if you've got to rely on willpower to build your business, then good luck, because that's going to be very hard. However, if you can develop the right habits so that you're doing the things daily that will give you the consistency that will build your business, fantastic. And the reason they need to be habits is very simple. I'll use the gym as an example. If you go to the gym once and you use every piece of equipment in there, so you lift all the weight machines, use all the different ones, you work all the different muscles, maybe you go on a cycling machine, a running machine, a rowing machine, and you do all that once. Is that it? Are you then automatically at the weight you want to be? When you look in the mirror, are you automatically look the way you want to look? No, of course not. So you've got to do it consistently. In other words, there's got to be a level of discipline to it. And so to make that a habit, so you don't have to think, it's like, okay, you get up, I'm training. Like I get up in the morning, I either map out my day the night before, or I do it first thing in the morning. And within that day, it's like, okay, when am I training? Not am I training? When am I training? It's a habit. So I just put it in my day where I think is appropriate or where I've got the time to do it. But I always make the time to do it because it's a habit. So it's habitual. Don't have to think about it. It's in there. And then, of course, in order to make your strategy work, there'll be certain skills. So, in terms of advertising or in terms of writing content or getting visibility, there's certain skills, a certain level of knowledge needed to help you accelerate that. there's a certain level of knowledge needed to implement that. And that's what I mean by a skills gap. So you may need certain skills in terms of basic writing skills or basic copywriting skills to be able to write something which is more engaging, which kind of nicely brings us to Sticky Messages. There's a book, I think it originally came out in 2006, 2007, something like that. And it's two brothers that wrote it. I think they've written a few books. I think that they are academics in the sense of they teach at universities. I can't remember which ones, but I think they're called Dan and Chip Heath. I think that's their names. I could have got that wrong. But the book's called Made to Stick, and it is all about sticky messages. In other words, what the premise of the book is about is why do some ideas take off and stick and why some don't. And as a simple example, some of the things that we have in our day-to-day language, like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. That's a message that's been around for, I don't know what, thousands of years, at least 1,000 years. And there's a version of that in most cultures. So no matter what the language, there is variations on that message. And obviously what it means is, the idea of if I've got a bird in my hand, I've got food today. So that's worth a lot more than two that potentially in the bush that I don't have. It's a bit like sales, money in the bank today. I'd rather have that than the potential for money some other time, unknown, vague. So that's a sticky message. But what made it sticky? And that's what they set out to do in the book. So the book isn't giving you a formula. It's kind of giving you six principles based around making your messages sticky. Now, this ties in with another book I read recently called Microscripts, which was the idea of distilling your core message, or in our case, your core sales message or your core marketing message or your core headline of your content down to as few words as possible. So with the same idea, can you explain, can you put across a message in as few words as possible and have somebody resonate with it? So in other words, you get their attention, you hold their attention. And that's part of, so the same concept, same idea of being sticky, approached from two different perspectives. But sticky message, I went through it and I mind mapped the whole thing, put it in my journal here. I'm just looking at it now. And so, for example, one of the first principles is that the message has got to be simple. Like if it's a convoluted, difficult message, then obviously no one's going to remember it. And if it uses, like I've always thought, this is kind of interesting in its own right. I've always described influence to people that wanted to listen, and when I've done courses in the past on influence, as the ability to plant pictures in people's minds. So the influence is literally planting pictures in people's mind. And the order and sequence of those pictures is how you influence people's behavior. So simple example, basic thing. Like if I was, like when I've been running seminars, like I'll at certain points, I do a state change. So I'll get people out their seats. Of course, if they're sat in one place for too long, then their mind can start wandering. They sort of lose some energy. It's like you want to keep them focused. So, we'll take a break. Taking a break is a good thing. You use other parts of their body, get them motivated, get them focused again. And so I'll get them out of their chair and massaging each other or out of the chair and doing something. But in order to do that and to get it across simply, it's no good just saying, everybody stand up and massage the person next to you, because nobody will do anything. People might stand up, but then they'd look confused as to what they're supposed to do next. They might feel self-conscious about what they're supposed to do next. But if I break it down into a series of simple steps, then it's not a problem. So it literally could be, okay, stand up. That's one simple, clear message. And there's a picture in it, stand up, so they stand up. Then it's okay, turn to your right. So everyone does the same thing. One simple message. What do they got to do? Turn to their right. And this is another aspect. One of the things they talk about in the Made to Stick book is making your messages concrete, which is what I mean by pictures, simple pictures that are obvious and clear. So then it's like, okay, turn around, then put your hands on the shoulders of the person in front of you. Very simple. There's only one person in front of you. They put their hands on their shoulders. Now massage them. So it's breaking down that process. And what you've also got in there is another psychological principle, which comes from Cialdini, that small commitments lead to big commitments. Like if I said to somebody, get up and, massage somebody, it's like, that's a big leap. But if I just say, stand up, that's a small commitment. Turn to your right, that's another small commitment. Put your hands on the shoulders of the person in front of you, that's another small commitment. Now massage. So now we've gone from small commitment, slightly bigger commitment. Because, of course, this might be a complete stranger, somebody they've never met before. But they'll do it. I mean, one, they do it because it's the environment, the seminar. But you get my point. It's break down the messages. So I'm spending a lot more time and thought on this because, and it's a shame. I should have taken a picture of the mind map, then I could show you. Oh, actually, maybe I've got it. Let me share this mind map. This is where I'm going with strategy at the moment. So let me see. Stop sharing that. Let me see if I can share a different window with you. Window. Where is it? Is it that one? I think it's that one. Let me share. Let me see if that comes up. Back here. Yeah. Is that right? Let me just check. That's the right one. Not sure it is actually. Okay, never mind. Let me not share that. Let me talk you through this. So I'll bring it down as a story. So I've been looking for the right approach and the best approach that I feel is the best approach to kind of combine paid strategies with organic strategies in a way where you could start out with just the organic if you wanted to, so that, because I understand the reticence people have, understand the fear people have around spending money on something they may not get a return for. And especially where, like, it took me a long time after I was not speaking on stages to kind of really decide what is it I'm actually doing. And this is what I mean. I've been doing things like selling courses, and that's all gone very well. That's all great. I've been doing some over the years. I've done a certain amount of consulting, coaching, one-on-one. That's all fine. But I've never been truly, this is exactly what I want it to be. And I mentioned this earlier, like I want to get to this place where ultimately leverage my greatest strength, which is, to be doing coaching. Hi, Rajesh. Thanks for your, is that come up to now? Oh, yeah. Hi, Rajesh. Yeah, appreciate the comment, mate. So it's like getting to that place. What's going on there? There we go. Getting to that place of doing the things I want to do. So it's like, okay, most important aspect is to grow an audience. If you don't have an audience, then, trying to sell something to completely, it's like an empty room. You're trying to sell to an empty room, in which case you're going to have a real problem on your hands. So building an audience is important. Obviously, you can accelerate how you grow an audience. You can do things like a challenge. You can do a launch where you're doing the launch purely to grow the audience as opposed to make massive amount of sales. That's another way of doing it. But I wanted something consistent that is kind of a day by day. These are things you do. And then that's a strong, solid foundation. Then anything else you do, like a challenge, like some sort of sprint, is an added bonus. So that's where I was kind of going. So here's where I'm at. If I make content the center of an audience building strategy, which makes sense, content is obviously king, queen, and knave online. Then it's like within that, what content? So then I was like, okay, what play to my strengths? I speak, I enjoy speaking, so let's make video part of that. Now I've started building a YouTube channel maybe 2 years ago. Didn't have a huge amount of success with it because I wasn't consistent with it. I didn't build it as a habit. But I didn't build it as a habit because I had this nagging thing in my head of like, this is a very slow process that isn't really going to deliver what I want. And so the whole thing became, well, I'll do it for a while. And then it's like, okay, what's a better way of doing that plays to my strengths? Well, let's do live, like the whole live streaming thing. The technology made it a lot easier. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do some. So I got into the habit of doing one a week. And that's been great. But I was doing it with a view to let's see what comes out of it, not with a plan of what to do when I went into it. But still with this outcome of, I want to get to this place where I've got this strategy that allows me to leverage all the things that I think are important to give me the outcome I want, which is to grow a bigger audience. So I've got to that place. I've now got that strategy nailed. So I'm sharing with you, even though rather than waiting 6 months saying, oh, look, I built, a following of 20,000 people in the last few months. Here's what I did. I thought I'll share it with you up front. And then we can kind of see together how it starts to come together and how the audience grows in size. And also we can see, I think it'll be great to see something that I know for a fact, which is you will have slow tipping point, boom. So we'll see that in action. And I want to see that. And I want to document that so I can share it with other people as well. So the whole point is like put content at the center. So for me, putting content center means do more live streams. Live stream is the easiest way for me to put content on the internet, because it takes very little effort. All I've got to do is turn on the camera and start talking. However, I want to be a little bit more disciplined about it. So that means I'm going to start going live twice a week. I'm going to spend a little bit of time each month deciding what I'm going to focus on in those lives. So therefore, there's a purpose to this. The purpose of that is to be able to create a 2-3 minute teaser video before the live. So let's say if I go live on a Tuesday, then I want to make sure I've got a teaser video out on the Friday. And then that means that video goes out, tells people what's coming up. So organically, people who already know me would see that. I could then encourage them and ask them to share that with other people. So there's an organic element to that. So that helps grow the audience. Then, of course, people turn up. Now, that's where the sticky message comes in. Because in order to do the teaser video, you want to have what's the sticky message? What's the message that grabs people's attention and gets them to go, I've got to watch that. Like I've got to watch that live, either live or I've got to watch it at some point. And of course, in doing that, even if they watch it in the replay, there's still things we can do with it. So that's the first part. So it's like teaser video, necessary. So what's going to be the focus of the live stream? What's the teaser video that sells the free live stream? Does that make sense? So that's kind of the marketing aspect. And then it's like, what are the sticky messages that are going to do that? So I'm going to have to get much better at coming up with sticky messages on the fly, because obviously I can't spend a week coming up with a message when I'm trying to do 2 lives a week. That wouldn't make sense. So that's the whole thing. So that's why I dug into the book, Made to Stick. It's like, okay, remind me again, what are some of the key principles of sticky messages? And that kind of gets my brain thinking, bringing together things I already know, but in a new way. So that's all great. And tied in with the microscripts book, which was, what's your dominant selling idea? How'd you put that across succinctly in as few words? Same concept, different approach. Give me a different way of thinking about it. All helps develop creativity. That's the important bit. Like imagination, creativity, that's what delivers great messages. So I'm always collecting information to be able to tie it together in new ways to create great messages. So that's the first part. Then once I've done the live, then what? Well, something I got from, this is a big shout out to Molly Mahoney, who probably doesn't even know I exist, but she talked about at the end of all of her videos, and if you ever watch any, you'll see she does a quick summary. And then that quick summary, like she takes the points of what she said, like, I should be writing down what I've been talking about so I can give a summary at the end of this. And again, that's another habit for me to develop. Like get into the habit of making notes as I'm talking about the things I've covered so that at the end I can do a 5-minute summary. That summary then gets cut off. So I get the video editor, or even if you're starting out and you're on your own, you've got very few resources, you'll be doing it yourself. It's like, take that 5-minute clip. So literally you could mark it out. Like when I record video, if I make a mistake, I just clap my hands, and then it's easy to see the spike in the editor. So, or for me to see it, or for someone else to see it, so they can go straight to it and cut from there. So if at the end of the video, I go boom, and then I do my 5-minute summary, then it's easy for me to outsource that, or for me to do it myself if I feel like it, to kind of go in, grab that clip, and then use that clip to put on Facebook as a summary of what happened. And again, as a way to promote the full live stream as a replay, to say, come and watch the whole thing, or to encourage people to join my group, or encourage people to subscribe, put it on YouTube and encourage people to subscribe to YouTube. Put it on LinkedIn and obviously move people from LinkedIn to YouTube or Facebook group, whichever. But again, or use it to just build my following on LinkedIn. So again, you kind of got pre-live. So you got the live stream as a content. You've got pre-live stream. So before you do the live stream, so you then got the prequel. You got your little video, couple of minutes to promote the live stream and get more people engaged. Of course, that still goes out. And if I put that on YouTube as well in my channel, it goes out to everyone that already knows me. YouTube then adds their weight to it by making it a recommended video for some other people. So we can do that. Put it on Facebook, same idea. And then, of course, what else can I do with those things? I can take that little 2-3 minute clip and promote it. So now we're combining organic with paid. So now I can say, okay, here's the clip that's promoting the live stream. And I can run that in advance of the live stream. Say, I'm coming up and going live on this day at this time. This is the topic. Boom, come in. Like, I might do something, say, like, we're going to nail a strategy on how to make a full-time income with part-time effort. So I'm playing with that message at the moment. So we could do that and get people to then, I could turn it into an event on Facebook. So again, leveraging what the platform has to offer, turn it into an event on Facebook, and then obviously get people to join the event, and then they come and watch the live stream. I can then use that in conjunction with, say, something like ManyChat, where I put this ticker here, comment notes below to grab the show notes. I want to get all that hooked up so that when somebody comments notes, then obviously ManyChat can automatically send them some messages. And again, that could add them to my email list and so on and so on. So you're growing the list. So what I'm saying is you've got this opportunity to leverage content in a great way to grow your audience, build your credibility, build your trust. And of course, even if you've got nothing to sell at the moment, it doesn't matter. because you're growing an audience around something that you are interested in. So if you wanted to grow, not like for me, it's very like the theme of my career when I thought about it the other day has really been about raising awareness for people so they can create the lifestyle they want. And a lot of what I did in the beginning, we used to run ads, and I would say 80% of the people that came to my free taster events were people that were employed and needed another income stream. So that's where the property came in and everything else. So that's always been a theme. So I'm very, let's say you're focused on, I don't know, people who ride horses, but equestrian type stuff. You can still build an audience around that content without having any idea of what you're going to sell them yet. Because the point is, as you grow your audience, what can you do? You can ask them. You can do polls. You can run a series of messages and see what people respond to. Like, you go on YouTube and I look at the analytics for, my channel's small, but still the analytics tell me so far the kind of topics that my audience is most interested in. So you can do more around that. So again, you can do that. So again, with YouTube, then of course, if I put the live stream on YouTube like I'm doing now, what can I do with it after the event? Well, I can actually run some discovery ads and push that out to a wider audience to get to subscribe. Like literally have a message saying, subscribe and you'll be notified of future lives. We're going to be talking about blah, blah, blah. Or I could run the teaser video and again, use that to grow the subscription base. Say, subscribe here so you get notified when we go live. Subscribe here for future live. So again, I'm using paid to accelerate the eyeballs on the content to grow the audience faster. So that's kind of a quick overview of where I'm headed with all of this. As a strategy, yes, there's probably some nuance to it. So I haven't gone into here yet. But the point is, it's a strategy that is content focused, is organic, can work organically, although it will be slower, but with paid ads as well will accelerate. But regardless, even if you're doing it organically, do it. It's like if it took you, I know, like I've got people I know who've built a YouTube channel and maybe it took them the first year to get to a significant, a couple of thousand. Maybe it took them 18 months to get to 10,000. But once you got to 10,000 subscribers, things got easier because I think YouTube's algorithm lends more weight once you've got 10,000 subscribers. So you can do any of this organically if you want. And you certainly don't have to wait until you've got an audience of 10,000 before you start selling something at all. You can have an audience of 100 and make money. I've done that several times. So it's not like you need huge audiences to start asking them what sort of things they want or noticing the patterns in the questions they ask or the kind of things that they talk about or want to know more about that give you an indication of where you're going with the kind of thing they would want. If you're in the information space in the sense of marketing information, sales information, anything related to building a business online, then I would still suggest what you want to be thinking about at the moment, and I believe this is where the marketplace is going to go more and more and more, is the coaching side. So there's the support side, is the mentoring side, is the guidance side. It's like people want and need customized advice. You cannot get customized advice out of a generic information product. Like an information product, like if we go back to my slide. Yeah, back to this slide. Let me just change what I'm sharing. Hold on a sec. This one. Is that right? Yeah, that one. If we go back to this, then obviously the information you're providing helps somebody develop the skills. You could obviously package a strategy as an information product, and I've done that. So you could argue that, okay, you're giving them a strategy or you're giving them the skills. That's what the whole information product is. But then customizing it to them or helping them implement it for their business when they're not you, when they're not starting necessarily from exactly the same place as you, when they've got maybe a different set of resources to you or a different set of strengths to you, then you can take a strategy, but it'll need tweaking to make it work for them. And that's where the support comes in. So that's where I'm heading to this place of I'm ultimately going to get to a place where I'm predominantly selling monthly calls. So whereas the lives will be, here's some an overview and some interesting information and maybe a strategy, and obviously answer questions on the live, then where I want to get to is like a part of the club where it's like monthly live calls where I answer people's questions and help them customize something to work for them in their niche based on their strengths. And at the same time, of course, because I can tell based on the questions people ask, I got an idea of what's going on in their head. I've got an idea of what's getting in the way, what the blocks are, what the limiting beliefs are. I've got a complete insight in all of that because I've done that so often. Then again, I can help them shift that. I can reframe that. So I can help them blow out that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm going. So if I was to summarize what I've done today, then I would say that one, my suggestion is two things. One, look at your business model. Look at your business model and think about the fact that I believe where we're heading. Well, I more than believe. I'm going to say I know where we're heading. I know where we're heading in the sense of what's going to become more and more and more important is coaching and mentoring rather than information products. Purpose of that being that obviously with coaching and mentoring, people want custom advice. They want things tailored. It's the same like you've seen this in other areas. People want, you can go and buy a t-shirt with your name on it. It's like people get things customized all the time. So we're moving in that direction where people want the custom advice. They want the custom support. They want as well, perhaps the support of a community, to feel part of a community, because that's a human need anyway. So to be able to do that and provide that as your primary service, I think is a smart move to build that into your business model, to make any information and content that you're providing, if you're selling courses, to make that a lesser part of your business and use that really to kind of just maybe attract people. So you could create great, like I've created a number of courses over this last year, and I deliberately forced myself to try and create a course a month, a small course a month, to really make sure I've got a library, a catalog of products. But I knew that I wasn't going to be necessarily using those as, I'm all in selling this course, because I knew where I wanted to get to. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I'm in a place where I'm ready to start doing it. What I was missing was what I felt was a more effective way to grow my audience. So the second part of that is, what's the strategy to grow your audience? So what I'm saying is content-based, live stream-based, because that's what the platforms like, YouTube, Facebook, they all like the live stream stuff. So use live stream. Think about it in terms of, okay, here's the content I'm going to share. So therefore, pre-going live, create a 2-3 minute teaser video and then run that out to all the platforms, to all the people that follow you, run it out to your email list. And also use that to help grow your email list and your followers by encouraging your current audience to share it with other people that they would know. So they share it on their Facebook page, they share it on LinkedIn, and so on and so on. So you can use it to grow that way. Then, of course, you deliver the live stream. At the end of the live stream, you do a summary. The summary then becomes a video in itself, which you can repurpose and break into, say, a 60-second piece. You put it on Instagram, a 2-minute piece. You put it on Facebook. You put it on your business page on Facebook to remind people. And also, you keep this bit, like you see at the bottom, I put here, comment notes below to grab the show notes. Tie that all in so they can comment even in the replay. So they can say, okay, I want to see the full replay. They can come and watch it. They can comment. They can get the show notes. That adds them to your email list. That adds them to your Facebook followers, wherever else. You can also use it to encourage them to add them to your YouTube subscribers. Do the same thing on YouTube. Run the teaser video, run discovery ads to accelerate it. So all of this ties together as a paid and organic strategy that works brilliantly, becomes a system. You're constantly putting out more and more content. And you can give away more content because your primary focus isn't the content. The primary focus is to move people ultimately to want the support and the customized advice, which they're going to get from your coaching. So I'm moving to that model where it's not here's a 6-week coaching program with a very specific result. It's like, no, here's an ongoing support community where I nail your problems on a weekly basis, because people will have more than one problem. There are some things which are called forever problems. They'll always have them, or always somebody having them. And different stages of growing a business, you will face different problems. Things that there's no point me even talking about if you haven't got to that stage in your business, because it wouldn't make any sense to you. So to be able, for me, this is playing to my strengths, and I'm encouraging you to think of your business model in this way, to get to that place where you're providing the support, answering the questions, helping break down whatever's going on in their head, so that they then ultimately get the result they want, which in my case obviously means building a business that replaces their 9-to-5 income, gives them a better lifestyle, and also gives me a platform, no pun intended, to be able to share some of the other things I like sharing, which is not just the business side, but the fitness side, which then ties in with the other business I'm going to be starting. And then obviously the whole fulfillment fund, family, friends, having a better life. Ultimately, that's really where I'm going with all of this. So hope that's been useful. Oh, the final piece I didn't mention, sticky messages, of course. Make your messages sticky so that your marketing is more effective. So make them simple, make them concrete, make them emotive. And actually on that, I didn't mention this before, so I'm going to mention it now in the summary. When it comes to making a message emotive, it's not enough to just inject pain. You want to get people to care about the message. One of the great takeaway bits I took from Chip Heath, and it's Dan Heath. That's it. The two brothers Heath. The big thing I took from their book for me was this idea of create a message that makes people care about the message. That's how you will both get their attention and keep their attention. So that's an important thing to put in. So make your messages sticky, leverage that to promote your live streams, run great live streams, create a summary, leverage the summary to repurpose it, and again, advertise and continue to grow your audience. Talk to your audience then to find out exactly what they want to buy. But I will tell you that the one thing you want to be educating them on is the whole idea of information alone is never enough. It's the support, it's the community, it's being able to answer customized answers to specific problems they're facing that's going to make a real difference for them. All right, I hope that's been useful. I hope I've got this. I'm going to get better, obviously, doing the summaries as we move forward. So that's going to become a habit for me. But I am moving to a twice a week live stream model with the specific purpose of leveraging this strategy to grow my audience. So let's watch it. We can use this as a case study. We'll watch it grow, and then boom, it'll hit tipping point. All right. So I will talk to you again probably Tuesday. As I said, I've got to get into the habit of doing this twice a week. So Tuesday will be the next live stream. I will see you then. If you're watching this in the replay, by all means, leave any comments you got below, any questions you've got. I will come back and answer them. All right. Talk to you very soon. Take care.